All right, welcome all to Hit or Miss. I am your host, Night Strike, and yeah, we got some things to talk about tonight. But first, let's introduce our panelists that have decided to grace us with their presence this evening. I know everyone's still watching the Jeopardy with G Web's Clover Tack and Ghost Tactical, but unfortunately, we can't watch G Webs make a fool out of himself for very much longer. We have the show must go on, so we have to start. So the illustrious panel I have this evening is the first up. We have, the one, the only, the Kingpin. What's going on, Kingpin?
Not too much, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Next up, we have everyone's favorite bird, Gizzard Gary.
Welcome, people of Earth. Give him the bird.
And last but not least, we have Travis P11.
Hey, man, appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Usual plugs. Check out my channel, Travis P11 over there on YouTube. Check me out over on gunchannels.com and guntube.org. Appreciate the invite, brother.
Speaking of guntube.org, we are running Hit or Miss live off of GunTube Chamber. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I have changed the GunTube Chamber logo at the top left. Yes, it's a little smaller, but it's the new logo for GunTube Chamber. Yes, I know the chamber on the logo is empty by design. Eventually, the chamber will be full.
We'll be filling it with liberals' tears.
We'll be working on it, and as we work on it, we may change the logo by adding a round or two, or three, or four, or five. It depends on how things go. So we're using GunTube Chamber for Hit or Miss tonight, and it went. Gary, you went like what? How many hours did you go on Saturday?
4 hours.
4 hours. You went 4 hours. Kingpin, how many hours did we go the other night?
Just about 6.5.
6.5 hours with GunTube Chamber. That's pretty good. So there we go. All right. What's on the agenda tonight first? Okay. So last week, everybody heard about how the city of San Francisco labeled the NRA a domestic terrorist organization, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, who officially came out and did this? Was it the city chamber? Was it the mayor? Was it some group or council? Was it the San Francisco Board of Tourism or what? Who did this?
Board of Supervisors.
Well, that sounds pretty important.
The San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted to designate the National Rifle Association and its 5 million members a domestic terrorist organization. It's a purely symbolic move that got the feces-smeared city by the Bay plenty of press. As you might expect, the NRA didn't take well to this political stunt. NRA went on record saying, "This is a reckless assault on a law-abiding organization, its members, and the freedoms they all stand for. We remain undeterred, guided by our values, belief in those who want to find real solutions to violence." And this is no surprise. In today's cancel culture, being named or identified as a member of an alleged terrorist organization, even if it's done by a far-left urban backwater, could get you thrown off of some social media platforms or worse. Yesterday, the NRA responded by filing a lawsuit on behalf of its 5 million members against the city of San Francisco over the declaration. This is from the Associated Press by Lisa Marie Payne. The National Rifle Association sued San Francisco on Monday over the city's recent declaration that the gun rights lobby is a domestic terrorist organization. The lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California accuses city officials of violating the gun lobby's free speech rights for political reasons and says the city is seeking to blacklist anyone associated with the NRA. It asks the court to step in to instruct elected officials that freedom of speech means you cannot silence or punish those with whom you disagree, which the left is very apt to do. My comment, of course. Last week, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors passed a resolution calling the NRA a domestic terrorist organization, contending the group spreads propaganda that seeks to deceive the public about the dangers of gun violence. No, they actually advocate gun safety more than gun violence. But again, not that I'm for the NRA, but I am more for the NRA than the city of San Francisco. That's for damn sure. Just on a scale of 1 to hate. This action is an assault on all advocacy organizations across the country, said William A. Brewer III, the NRA's lawyer. There can be no place in our society for this manner of behavior by government officials. Fortunately, the NRA, like all U.S. citizens, is protected by the First Amendment. San Francisco's resolution follows some recent high-profile shootings, including one in Gilroy, California, 80 miles southeast of San Francisco, where a gunman entered a festival with an AK-style long gun, killing three people and injuring 17 before killing himself. Since that shooting on July 28th, there have been at least 3 mass shootings in El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio, of which he was a what's her name, Elizabeth Warren supporter, and in West Texas, towns of Odessa and Midland, of which one of those instances, that guy was already a criminal and was denied a gun in the first place, yet he went and stole somebody's gun, and then stole a vehicle. So he not only did he commit one felony, he then proceeded to commit grand theft auto. I have to comment on that because ridiculous. San Francisco Supervisor Catherine Stefani said she drafted the resolution after the Gilroy shooting, driven in part by the vision of one of those killed while playing in a bouncy house at the festival. Stefani, an attorney who has been involved for years in gun control organizations, said the thought sickened her. I had enough, she told the Associated Press. They continue to stand in the way of gun violence reform, and people are dying because of it, she said. Yeah, well, that's one view. She also criticized NRA leadership for how it spends dues from its self-proclaimed 5 million members, a sore point among some gun rights activists as well, who believe its longtime CEO, Wayne LaPierre, and some of those in his inner circle have misspent hundreds of thousands of dollars on such things as expensive clothing, travel, housing, and inflated salaries, which no one's arguing that. Stefani told the Associated Press that she believes the lawsuit is a desperate move by a very desperate organization taking note of those allegations by some NRA members. I truly believe their time is up. Well, don't count them out yet. Maybe Wayne's time is up, but the NRA, I don't know. It's still in the air. The NRA has been battling a number of challenges to its operations in recent months, including an investigation by the Attorney General in New York, where its charter was formed, and the Attorney General in Washington, D.C., where the authorities are questioning whether its operations are in violation of its nonprofit status. There also have been internal battles over NRA leadership, with the group's then president, Oliver North, and its top lobbyist, Chris Cox, stepping down, giving gun rights activists pause about the NRA's ability to hold sway in the upcoming 2020 elections. Democrat leaders in Congress on Monday urged President Donald Trump, a favorite of the NRA, to push Republicans to agree to expand background checks. There have been efforts to make it easier to seize firearms, at least temporarily, from people who are exhibiting mental health issues. The NRA would go to court, then tackle the epidemic of gun violence in the U.S., said John Cote, San Francisco City Attorney Office's spokesman. The American people would be better served if the NRA stopped trying to get weapons of war into our communities and instead actually did something about gun safety. Common sense safety measures like universal background checks and assault weapons ban and restricting high-capacity magazines would be a good start. No, that would be a start to a police state. Let's already look at a police state like Venezuela and see how that's working out. Not so much. The civilians want their guns back. LaPierre, NRA's CEO, vowed to fight the move by city officials, saying in a statement, this lawsuit comes with a message to those who attack the NRA. We will never stop fighting for our law-abiding members and their constitutional freedoms. Some politicians forget that all 5 million of us in the NRA stand for freedom and that we believe it is a cause worth fighting for. We will always confront illegal and discriminatory practices against our organization and the millions of members we serve. Well, that's a nice statement. That's all I'm going to say. The move by city officials has received some pushback from those who believe it amounts to virtue signaling. An editorial in the Los Angeles Times written by Michael McGough argued that although the NRA should be criticized for blocking efforts to stem gun violence, it is not accurate to label it a domestic terrorist organization. No, if you want a domestic terrorist organization, look at the far-left group called Antifa. That's textbook definition domestic terrorist organization right there, inciting riots, blocking traffic, attacking pedestrians, attacking moving vehicles. That's domestic terrorism. Police shooting and gun violence understandably inspire strong emotions, and elected officials are no exception. But they need to watch their words, especially when those words are contained in legislation, or in this case, pseudo-legislation, McGill wrote. The San Francisco resolution also follows steps by corporate America in recent years to cut ties with the NRA and its members. From Delta Airlines ceasing discounts for NRA members to last week's moves by Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, and Albertsons chains, all asking customers to not openly carry firearms in their stores. Well, it looks like I'm not going to Albertsons anytime soon, especially when I go back to Arizona. The NRA, there's a tweet from the NRA saying they've sued the city of San Francisco, where city officials recently passed a resolution declaring the NRA domestic terrorist organization. That was one of their tweets. And yeah, you know, I really hope the NRA beats San Francisco. Travis, what do you think about all this?
So what kind of like, all right, so San Francisco, you know, that definitely an honorable place, right? This is a sanctuary city that has been harboring lawbreakers since 1989 is when they declared themselves a sanctuary city. So what kind of grounds are they supposedly the moral high compass of our country, you know? I mean, there's a bunch of criminals anyway. So in my opinion, they have no credibility whatsoever to even say anything like that. Second, if you look at the definition of a terrorist or what a terrorist does, the NRA has done a lot of bad things. I think we can agree to that, but acts of terrorism, maybe not necessarily promoting Second Amendment rights, okay, but not directly attacking people, you know, for any kind of political reason or whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, it's totally uncredited. There's no point. Well, I don't even know why they're even trying to bring it up. You know, they have no stance whatsoever with which to go from.
I wasn't aware that it was a city's job to label a domestic or an organization in the United States as a domestic terrorist organization. I thought that only Congress could do something of that level.
Well, you know, and furthermore, shouldn't they be trying to spend their time and effort and money on trying to fix their own problems, like their homelessness epidemic or their heroin problems that they're having right now, or just, you know, instead of or their housing costs? said they're busy trying to waste their time and money to babble about little things that'll get them nowhere. So I just think it's just ridiculous, you know. That's my thoughts on it.
I think it's more than ridiculous, but again, you know, figured we'd talk about it and go over it. Gary, what are your thoughts? I know you got some thoughts.
Oh, just a bunch of people playing word games. Just a lot of word games, a bunch of people slinging crap back and forth. And I don't know what the purpose of it is. I mean, I guess we're just trying to split the crack between gun owners and our opponents, you know, as wide as possible so we can both divide up on the sides of the fence prior to the election. Whoa, hello.
You just jumped in. But, yeah, keep going.
But as far as San Francisco, who the hell cares? I mean, really. I mean, I can understand the NRA and all that stuff maybe, but it's obviously just a lot of babbling. I mean, yeah, people have been calling us evil for years. They may as well call us terrorists and everything else. Of course, it's not anywhere near true or accurate. And we know that, and I think most of the American public knows that too. I don't think there's very many people who believe that. You have to be fairly much on the extreme fringe, which is what San Francisco is, by the way, to believe that kind of crap. And it might just make them look foolish. That's what I'm hoping. Makes them look so extreme that people say, I don't want to be associated with that side either. No. It could backfire on them.
Can I disagree now?
I mean, hey,
I'd
jump
be
in.
disappointed if you didn't.
Jump in, G.
So I think this, Travis, whenever I started jumping in here, Travis was saying about, like, you were saying about how they were doing the thing, and then why are they even paying attention to this when they got all the other problems, like social issues that they got going on? Like, you know, there's a list, right? We all know. So I think that's why. I think that it's a diversion, right? Like, oh, don't worry about all this. Like, we're worried about, look at how we're, what do they call that, virtue signaling? Look how we're virtual signaling. Like, we care about things so much. Like, they're the ones with straws too, right? Like, it's a desperate attempt to not focus on just the ills, which is fine, because when you're trying to do a whole bunch of stuff, right? I mean, that's just the way you do things, is you don't focus on just the ills, you try to do other stuff. But I think, I'm not justifying it, I think it's also an attempt to move that window. Is it called the Overton window? So, like, the concept that there's a window of acceptable things, like of all the stuff that can happen, there's like this window of acceptable. I think that's how it is. I understand it, at least. And society, like, you know, there's all the different parts of society made up of all these people, and they all agree upon like certain things as being okay or legal or whatever. Like, so there's this window of stuff that's appropriate, and there's one philosophy that window exists, right? People do their thing, people exist, and the window is a result of people doing their thing. But you can be manipulative and say, no, I can adjust that window. I can determine what's, you know, if I have enough influence or resource, I can help determine what society thinks is appropriate. So let's say you're evil and you want to, you know, discourage morality or something. You're going to attack the things that moral people consider important, or that, you know, are structurally significant in morality, right? So there's that concept that people are going to continually pull in directions in order to either expand the scope of what's acceptable, change the focus on what's acceptable. At one point, it was acceptable to be a racist, or it was acceptable to beat your wife. I mean, there's all kinds of things that were horrible that were acceptable. And this is a country made up of free individuals where we understand that we're not bound to whatever tradition we were born into, and we change the future. We change things. So we are the ones that have changed that perception that it's okay to be racist or it's okay to be sexist and stuff. And honestly, we're talking about San Francisco, where some of that stuff even came from, and some of the people that did that stuff culturally and socially retired too. So is it unusual that San Francisco is a focus of this? No, just no more than it's New York is a focus of some of this garbage too, or some of this stuff. Now, some of it is unpleasant and some of it's unnecessary and some of it's downright evil, I think. But at the same time, it's the methodology is just a way of changing society intentionally or being aware of society changing. So I think to dismiss it is dangerous. I think especially when we're talking about San Francisco, it's easy to dismiss San Francisco because of the whatever things you don't like about San Francisco, California, or the people or whatever. But it's Silicon Valley. It's Stanford, right? It's where the stuff that we're flourishing in, the stuff that we're using to communicate, the internet, that's where all that stuff comes from. These are the people that not only built what we use to be free, to use our First Amendment in all the different ways, but they're also figuring out what's next. So if we let social engineers, people that are intent on moving that window intentionally, and unfortunately, in ways that are less individual freedom and more big state, more, faith in the collective to do everything perfectly, what we get is the people that grow up in Silicon Valley and who are going to be the next Bill Gates or the next guy that invents the next little gizmo or gadget. We don't want them under the influence of this intentional deception that somehow guns are bad and blah, blah, blah. And if it's a distraction, if it's unintentional, like, hey, we're just trying desperately to take attention away from our failures, well, then no, they don't get to grab our Second Amendment protected rights as a life preserver to exploit and to dismiss as soon as they don't need it anymore. No, we're holding on to it on the other end, and we'll pull them out if they need help because they're Americans just like everybody else, but they don't get to trash our stuff on the way down. And I think that we do a disservice by ignoring it because it's that little stuff that festers and turns into social change. So we need to understand it. I don't know if we need to address it or acknowledge it or do anything more than just understand in the big picture. I think it's harmful for us. It's a loss on our end to dismiss it. And if anything, we should figure out ways to affect it because honestly, we can. It's not real difficult to affect the people that are doing this stuff intentionally. They don't have ultimate resources, and the resources they do have are vulnerable. So I think that we've got, with a little coordination, a little effort, we have the advantage over here. After all, we're on the side of individual freedom, liberty, safety. We understand that our neighbors are safe, trustworthy people. They're the ones that don't trust. They're the ones that need to sow deceit. They have to depend on deception in order to move their thing at all. So I don't want to say that it's possible for them to make a fool of themselves, like Gary was kind of saying. I think that somebody on our side, the memers or whoever the meme army is, somebody needs to ridicule them for this stuff. Hold their feet to the fire, so to speak. Don't let them get away with it. But I don't want to also feel an alarmist that everything they do is super consequential or anything. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Ohio 45 ACP makes a good point out there, is saying, based on the mass shooters politics lately, you could make a better case for Democrats being terrorists than necessarily the NRA.
Is there any kind of legal recourse that the NRA could have against San Francisco for slander or libel or anything like that?
Yeah, they can just
there's a lawsuit.
There is a lawsuit right now.
They're doing it right now.
Okay. I saw Instagram thing, so I'm assuming that's
yeah.
I think
they filed.
And I hope they win, because if they don't, that can set a precedent that would really scare me, because that means any state, group, whatever could basically say whatever they want and really not have to worry about it in court. I mean, against us legal gun owners.
And it's the same people that the McCarthy hearings were going against communists, and they were concerned about the whole list and the concepts, and they're the ones, and holding that as an option. Like, this is what we should do. Exactly what persecuted us.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So Kingpin, you've been rather quiet.
So again, that's something that can be illustrated, though. It's super easy to make like a split screen on Instagram and have the McCarthy hearings on one side and whoever's suggesting this on the other side, and show the comparison. It's simple to mock them for the foolishness that they're talking about here. And I think it's worthy. I think it's worthwhile. I don't think it's to our advantage to dismiss it. We get stronger when we're able to challenge these things, and if we can challenge them with little effort, with great effectiveness, then we super win, right? Then we're super strong.
All right. Kingpin, do you want to jump in on this and give us your final thoughts on this this topic before we move on?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what G-Webs was saying with don't dismiss this. You know, when we think of San Francisco,
That's why we're discussing it.
we
That's why we're
think,
discussing
okay, we think of the Birkenstock, dreadlocks, hippie living on the street or whatever. This was done completely intentional. And the severity of being labeled a terrorist group, that's more than just a meme. They're not kidding. They're not playing around. They didn't just take a wild shot in the dark and say, hey, let's call them a terrorist group. They planned that out for a specific purpose, and it's not a good purpose. It's an evil purpose. And we need to pay close attention to that, because post 9/11, being labeled a terrorist group means something pretty serious. And the government can do bad things to you when you're labeled a terrorist group.
Right.
And
Bad things without I was just gonna say, without the rule of law, right? Without the all the stuff that we would normally have protecting us as somebody who's accused.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like they're going to be all coming down here to Virginia and posting up in front of the headquarters. They're going to be looking for the guy walking into Walmart with an NRA hat on, because that guy is a terrorist. That's the NRA terrorist right there.
And you know what? Again, what bothers me about this is you've got the uneducated sheeple that will just think, "Oh, the NRA's they're a terrorist organization, so those members must be terrorists." People that are uneducated, that don't know any better, they're going to believe that, and that immediately, like you said, David, it's going to hurt everybody's reputation. So, yeah.
All right. Now, we're going to cover something that happened a few days ago, but it's still relevant. Apparently, Moms Demand Action failed to get enough signatures to block Oklahoma's constitutional carry law. For those that don't know, Oklahoma's government had already signed and had an open constitutional carry law going into effect in, I believe it was November, correct?
I don't know. I'm not sure what it is for Oklahoma.
I think it was November, and Moms Demand Action tried to get that stayed and put it on the 2020 ballot instead to try and downvote the constitutional carry law in Oklahoma. I'm going to go over this article from The Truth About Guns about it. So, long frustrated by their inability to get much action in Washington, D.C., or I would say much action anywhere. Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America branched out to the states in an effort to score. A win that is, unfortunately, for the demanding moms. They will remain frustrated in Oklahoma as they have failed to gather enough signatures to put Oklahoma's new constitutional carry law up for a vote. They needed 60,000 John or Jane Hancocks, but the moms, led by a Democrat Oklahoma State Representative named Jason Lowe, couldn't find an actual mom to lead them, unfortunately, failed miserably. Spectacularly, in fact. By their own admission, they may have had a few as half the required number of signatures, and the positions they circulated hadn't even been subject to scrutiny to verify the signatures they did manage to get as legitimate. In a court filing on Thursday, an attorney for the group estimates they gathered between 30 and 50,000 signatures. They would have needed nearly 60,000 signatures from registered voters to qualify the question for the ballot. Attorney Brian Ted Jones says one reason for the uncertainty is because supporters were dropping off signatures left right up until the August 29th deadline, led by Democratic State Representative Jason Lowe and the gun safety group. Moms Demand Action supporters say they were prompted to act after 2 mass shootings last month. No, they just got their I guess, quarterly fund from Bloomberg. But apparently, it looks like the moms came up short. In a state of almost 4 million people, they couldn't even manage 60,000 signatures of gun control supporters. Gun control in Oklahoma must be very unpopular if Moms Demand Action couldn't get even 1 in every 65 people in the state to support gun control. That's the end of the article. So, yeah, good news for Oklahoma. Apparently, they're going to get their constitutional carry law enacted. So,
Yeah, don't bring that crap around this part of the country.
yeah, I mean, Kansas, you guys are close. I mean, do you have a lot of do you have a lot of anti-gunners in Kansas, Gary?
Just in a couple or 3 cities. They're all clustered together.
And do you think they have enough traction to start laying down bad laws in Kansas?
No, I don't. They can try. They already have tried.
I'm asking you your opinion again.
Laws.
And that didn't go down so well, I assume.
It died in the Senate, state Senate. Yeah.
Good. Score 1 for Kansas. But, yeah, so good news for Oklahoma. Travis, what do you think?
I'm just jealous that we don't have constitutional carry in Nebraska. I'm hoping at some point in my lifetime we'll actually see that happen. Maybe we'll get smart and join our brothers down in Kansas.
Well, aren't you moving to an area that's less gunner friendly?
Not necessarily. Lincoln doesn't have any. Lincoln, yeah, their city council did ban. They had a city ordinance banning bump stocks, but that's really about it. There's no increase in rules or laws. I think the only thing you can't do in Lincoln, which is our state's capital, is leave a gun in a vehicle for more than 24 hours. I believe that's the only thing you cannot do. Even if it's locked up, I believe you cannot leave. I got to look up the city ordinances. I have no idea, but I think that's the only thing. But I mean, otherwise, there's no main issues. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily open carry in Lincoln. It is, college town. It's a very liberal town. Unlike here in town where nobody really cares about open carry around here. But I mean, there's a great, wonderful range in Lincoln that they have that I can go to. There's gun stores all over the place. There's a pretty decent. I mean, there's competitive shooting that people do up in that area. I'm not too worried about it at all, actually. Actually, some of the neighbors I've met in my wife's apartment building are hunters and shooters too. I've seen them carrying in cases. We've started chatting about stuff. They've seen me bringing in some ammo boxes and stuff. We're sitting there talking. So, I feel pretty good. I mean, it's not the sportsman's paradise I have out here, obviously, but it's not bad.
All right. G, thoughts?
Thoughts on Oklahoma not, or I guess successfully repelling some anti-thing?
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Positive.
Okay. All right. Kingpin, you there? No, Kingpin's having connectivity tonight, so I guess that's that. All right. What else is going on? Going through my notes here. Kingpin's back. Kingpin, what's your thoughts on constitutional carry in Oklahoma?
I think it shows that the other side, although they might be loud and obnoxious, don't have the numbers that they like to think that make people think they have.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Maryland will never have constitutional carry, so I just think it's great that more states are getting it, and very happy to see another one added to the list.
Never say never.
Almost
Maybe
never.
maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right. I think that's really all I've got on for topics tonight, because we already went over Walmart last week, so we're not going over that again. So that's all I got, unfortunately. Snob, didn't I not give you a link? No, there's no blood in the streets yet, apparently, according to Snob. All right. I have nothing else to talk about, guys.
I could mention a bloke's 2 cents suppressor giveaway video.
Why don't you do that? Because we got to support that. I haven't done a video yet on that. I got to get around to that. But why don't we do a spot here on Hit or Miss right now first, and then I'll make another video later for him.
Cool. I would ask Gary if he happened to have the link close by, if he could post it out in the chat. That'd be great. Please and thank you. But a bloke's 2 cents has got a CGS Mod 9 suppressor, which I don't know what any of that means, but apparently it's a pretty good one. And
you can use up to 300 blackout subsonic in that suppressor. So
that's
it's a
good,
pretty
right?
nice suppressor. You can use up to 300 blackout caliber, yes. Sometimes if you want to use 9mm or 223 5.56 through it, it would work just fine.
Okay, so that's
But
definitely pretty cool.
the highest caliber you can use out of that silencer is 300 blackout subsonic.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea. Like I said, I don't know anything about suppressors, so I just figured it was for 9mm because it said Mod 9. But anyway, it's only $20 to enter, and it's going to a good cause. It's a GoFundMe fundraiser for one of Bloke's friends. Has a 10-year-old daughter that is in need of some pretty serious medical care right now. He explains it in the video, so if you go check that link that Gary just put out in the chat, you can go enter the video or enter the giveaway. If you don't want to enter the giveaway and you got $1 you'd like to donate, that'd be really cool too, because it's not about the suppressor. It's about, helping this little girl and her family out. Also, breaking news as of last night, the $200 tax stamp is also included in the $20 entry fee. So if you pay $20 and you were thinking, well, if I win, then I got to pay $200 tax stamp. No, because the $200 will be paid as well. So $20 gets you out the door. Somebody's going to walk away with that suppressor for $20.
Ooh, that's something to think about. Can we get the link out there to support GoFundMe? Because I think we should send that link out there too. Just the link for the GoFundMe, because
I don't care about the suppressor either, but the idea that they were just enjoying the day at the lake, and then she was like, I don't feel good, and then 10 minutes later, like, she had numb arms and legs, and then she was paralyzed for quite a while, and that's not something that's just what do they call it, like where something comes and goes, can expect it to disappear. This is something that there's an unknown. It came unexpectedly. That's a lot to deal with. I can only imagine. I literally can only imagine. So throwing a couple of bucks, I do know what it's like to experience having a bunch of people throw a few dollars down. That can eliminate. I can't even imagine. Like, I've done it for like stupid, insignificant things like, gun content. But for something like this, where they have to literally deal with their daughter, who, it wasn't like, I don't know, you're born with a heart problem and you know that you've got something that you're going to be dealing with this kid for a long time, right? The kid knows it's going to be dealing with this. It's just, it's just part of life. It's something that came up unexpectedly, so I can't even imagine the relief that just, the financial side, letting people deal with their actual situation instead of the finances. That's the neat part of the internet.
Yeah, and I can't imagine going through like something like this. I don't have children right now, so I hope to have children someday, but I could not imagine going through like something like this.
Don't threaten us. I don't feel like you should be threatening us at a time like this.
I'm not threatening you guys. I'm just making a
A
statement.
bunch of little night strikes running all around.
Oh, so what you're saying is you don't want any G-webs, little G-webs running around either.
I'm just saying I ain't gonna talk about it on the internet.
Well, well, there you go. I'm at least being honest. But that is awful. So if anyone out there can, donate to that GoFundMe and help them out and enter to win the contest if you want, please do that, because that's awful.
Yeah,
What's happening to that little girl?
One of the things the bloke wanted me to make sure is that actually there's two things. You need an FFL SOT. So whatever SOT means is what your FFL has to be able to do in order to get the suppressor. So that's very important. And then the other thing that's just as important is you have to email him your copy or your screenshot of your GoFundMe donation. And he said if you put the $20 in for the contest, definitely email him that, because if you don't email him that, he can't enter you in the contest. But if you just donate $1, email him that too. And that way he can respond to you and, show his appreciation, let you know thank you. And, so no matter what you donate, just send him an email. That way he can know and he can say thank you.
So there's like 7 different kind of FFLs. One of them is the CNR, right? If you're just going to be a collector, that's technically an FFL. Then there's your gun shop, your pawn shop. Those are just kind of like your standard FFLs. Then you get into
there's a separate one for gun shop and pawn shop.
Right. So then you go, I want to manufacture. So that's a different type of FFL. Now, if you want to import stuff, that's another type of FFL. And then there's FFLs for some of the NFA stuff. So if what he's talking about, that SOT, that's sometimes called Class 3. It's sometimes called Title 2. So it's also just, a lot of times you could say like full auto or suppressor. So basically, if you see a gun shop and it doesn't have anything that would be on the NFA, any kind of short guns, any kind of suppressors or anything like that for sale, more than likely it's probably not an SOT. But if they've got suppressors for sale, like if they've got suppressors sitting in the shelf, that means that they're an SOT. They have the type of FFL that allows them to buy and sell and transfer those things. And that's what he's suggesting, is you just don't want to assume that your FFL can accept the suppressor because it's on the NFA, because it requires that SOT type of, type 6, I think, FFL. Then you just don't want to assume. So you want to just ask your local gun shop where you plan on having it transferred. Can you take a suppressor? Can you accept a suppressor for transfer? Can you take a can, whatever you want to call it? And they'll know right off the bat. I can't imagine any gun shops anymore aren't at least familiar with suppressors. Did you see how many, not 4473s, but how many things went through the NFA branch this year?
I have not. How many?
1.8 million.
That's pretty good.
Oof.
That's actually pretty good. So.
Is that how many?
1.8 million tax stamps. That's tax stamps.
Oh wow!
Now, is that just all for just suppressors, or is that suppressors, AOWs, and what machine guns?
Well, everything. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna go double check. I'm pretty sure it's just all tax stamps. But
It might be everything together, but still, even if it's everything together, that's still a pretty awesome number. I'd like to think that number is positive. So,
all right. It says the NFA branch processed 1.5 million forms in 2018. So sorry, it's not this year; it's last year, 2018. So that's 174 forms per hour, 24 hours a day. It's 365 days a year, no days off. So 1.5 million forms in 2018. Now, some of those are, that doesn't mean 1.5 and things ended up in someone's hand. For example, you build a can and then you transfer it to the gun shop, there's a form. And then you buy it from the gun shop, there's a form. So that can, I don't know if they're going to count the creation of the can as a form or not. So it's either 2 or 3 forms just to purchase a can from a gun shop. But if you sell that can to someone, it goes to a gun shop and there's a form, and then they pick it up, there's a form. So that same can got purchased once and then sold once, there's 4 forms. So that 1.5 million is deceiving, because when they create bureaucracy, they then get to count every interaction with the bureaucracy that they've implemented, and then they get to act like they are needed. Like, oh, look, 1.5 million forms. Like, we really need to exist because that's evidence. Like, no, it just means that because you made it where every time anybody touches one of these things, we got to tell you about it. You get to count each of those as a blip for your existence or whatever. But if you weren't there, then that means 1.5 million people just transferred firearms around with each other, and these super dangerous firearms. But anyway, that's still a pretty significant number, even if it is 4 tags per item at the most.
I mean, even if it, I still like to think that it's a positive number.
It's definitely
Oh, this is awesome. So if you're on mute, you can hold down the space bar or push to talk. When you let go of the space bar, it automatically unmutes. That is neat.
Oh, you mean you can?
No, I mean, like, it doesn't toggle. It's
Really?
push to talk, like a mic, like a CB radio. Just hold down the.
Oh yeah, I see that. I did not
That's
see. I did
super
not
cool.
know that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's another
As
feature I didn't know.
Is a $1 co-owner of GunTube, I approve this feature.
I think
That
you
is
might need
very
to get
cool.
a raise for that. We might have to get the union together and get you a raise, G-Lex.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, I just put my dollar in and I discovered.
All right. Well, yeah,
I feel
don't.
like
I don't.
you take an extra tater job or something tonight.
I do have another bit
don't
of breaking
presume to know
news. One,
all the ins and outs of
Yeah.
the software using for GunTube Chamber, but I know enough to get it running, get it up and running, and add more on, and be able to continue doing these great live streams that we do on YouTube using our own hardware that is supported by a company that supports the Second Amendment, instead of by a company that can say at any moment, we don't like you talking about guns on our platform, get off.
And you talked about guns 7 years ago. We know that, so goodbye.
Right. You post a picture of your hands with guns 7 years ago on YouTube. We saw that. So goodbye.
I got a quick update on Bloke's giveaway, actually.
Okay, give us the update.
Apparently, and I just confirmed it with him, but there's also going to be a bulletproof vest donated with a carrying case. So you get the suppressor for $20, the tax stamp paid for $20, a bulletproof vest with a carrying case. I don't know if the carrying case is for the vest or the suppressor or what, but
Well, he's upping the ante. I don't know. I may have to enter myself.
well, he can explain how all that came to be. I just wanted to. I'm just relaying the message that there's also going to be a bulletproof vest added and a brand new carrying case. Like I said, I don't know if the carrying case is for the vest or for a suppressor or what, but that's also going to be added to it. So make sure you tell your friends.
Awesome. All right. So there we have it. Yeah, it is Sandhill Shooter doing 2A Tuesday tonight, or is he
Yeah, he is.
not doing it? Do we know? He is? Okay. So let's start wrapping up and get the hell out of here so we can go and check out 2A Tuesday. But last thing I want to mention, so since we are talking about the GunTube Chamber, if anyone would like to, please go to GunTube.org right now. And we've got at the top of the page asking you to support GunTube. We still have some of the GunTube stickers, the magnets, the coasters for sale, as well as patches. If you want a GunTube patch for sale on the GunTube store to help out GunTube, because we need the support. So if you can help us out and help us make GunTube even better, please do so. If you can't, if you don't want to, that's fine. No harm, no foul. But again, I just want to throw that out there for the GunTube store. With that, yeah, I think we're done here. Let's go through the room, let everyone get their plugs, and yeah. All right, so Kingpin, final thoughts, final plugs.
I've been trying to come up with this new tagline because I've been feeling kind of left out, and I'm going to try it out tonight, see if you guys have ever heard it before. Shall not be infringed.
Okay.
Ooh, that's pretty dynamic. I like that. That's a good one.
Say copyright.
Yeah, there you go. Hurry up. Do
Why
that.
hasn't anybody thought of that before?
Gizzard, give us your final thoughts and plugs.
My final thoughts are you should watch my videos. Got one coming out tomorrow you ought to watch. Look for it. And, of course, watch, listen in, and be part of Foul Territory on Friday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and the Early Bird Chat Sunday morning, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. And always remember, give them the bird. Bird is a word.
Yeah.
Bird.
G-Whips? Final thoughts?
Hey, thanks for the show. Chamber, I think the logo looks cool. You were screwing around with it the other day, but I didn't know what you were talking about. It must not have refreshed or whatever. So it looks pretty good with the chamber up there. I was going to say for Kingpin, you could do something like for a tagline like strike, with the whole bowling pin thing, but maybe so that you don't interfere with anything, you don't step on any toes, spell that strike with a Y.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
This is brilliant. I'm writing all this stuff down right now.
And then put a 1 after it, like strike 1. Right? There you go.
By the way, Kingpin, that's copyrighted, so don't strike it. So, but
Or maybe get like the sound effect of the bowling pins getting hit. Whatever that noise is.
Thank you for being here, G. Thank you. All right, Travis. Last but not least.
Yeah, man. Guys, make sure you check out my podcast, Caliber Corner. It is back on Monday nights at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock East Coast time. And that'll be over on gunchannels.com, and you can check it out over on GunTube.org. And Night Strike, I'm hoping to be able to do the show live through the GunTube chamber next week. I'm going to watch your video on how that works.
I cried because the other day you said you were going to do the first episode of Caliber Corner with GunTube, and then you decided not to. I was crying.
I'm not going to lie to you. I honestly did not have time to sit down. Dude, I didn't have time to sit down and watch the video on how to do it the right way, so I just did it through StreamYard. I will. It'll happen. Don't worry.
I was crying my eyes out.
I don't even know why you built the video, because all you did was open the window. There's nothing to it.
Well, no, I haven't had a chance to tool around with it. I want to make sure there's no delays.
I know, but I had to do a video because some people just can't follow directions without visuals.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure I know what I'm
doing.
All right,
so I got 2 questions I want to address before we leave. Yoder Texas is asking, Night Strike, will there be a way to have an audience when there's only GunTube Chamber and no YouTube? Well, if YouTube kicks us all off, eventually we will have it set up to where GunTube Chamber will stream to GunTube exclusively. Okay, that's not to say you can't send the stream somewhere else to another platform, but again, this is in the future. If we cannot use YouTube any further, we do have the capabilities to stream on GunTube, so we'll work on that. And he goes on to say, in other words, will Chamber replace YouTube entirely? No, Chamber replaces Hangouts. GunTube is still doing the video and live streaming thing on the site itself. This is just a tool to use to live stream. That's what GunTube Chamber is. It's an alternative to using StreamYard and Google Hangouts on Air, which we lost at the beginning of August. Okay. So with those questions out of the way, I want to thank everyone for showing up, everyone for jumping in and commenting out there on the YouTube side. Again, check out GunTube.org. And with that, we will see you guys next week. So thank you all for listening. This was Hit or Miss.
Give him the bird.
How do I turn this
Adios,
damn thing
Felicia.
off?
Adios, Felicia. Te amo, Felicia. Te amo.
Now is when I should say it, right?
Do it.
Shall not be infringed.
There you go. There you go.
How do you say shall not be infringed in Spanish?
No me dejen mis derechos.
That's a good one
Now,
too.
now yell it out.
That's right.
We need to get them on board. But again, shall not be infringed. And
Adios,
with that,
mi amor. Adios.
we're done.
Are we still
Nice
live?
Strike for President 2020. Nice Strike for President 2020. Get it out right now.
No.
Are we
Nice
still live?
From the Free Beer and Chicken Party. Free Beer and Chicken Party.
I do think your
This
shall not
message
be
was
infringed
approved
is
by
a
Night
little
Strike
bit
for
better than
President.
mine.